Hey guys, Greg here at the Vinyl Rundown, and this is the first video in the series that we're doing to honor Sonny Rollins, who's turning 90 years old September 7th. So the whole month of August, you're going to see a bunch of stuff on Sonny Rollins from me, and I've got a very special guest today with us, all the way from Brooklyn, New York, saxophonist Eric Wyatt, who has known Sonny his whole life. Hey, Eric, how you doing? Can
I'm
you hear
doing
me?
fine. I'm not in
Great.
the screen.
Great. Yeah. Well, thank you for joining
You got to
us.
bring me. I don't see myself though.
Well, I see you. My people see you.
Okay.
So you have to trust us that you're on screen and you look great. Doesn't he look great, folks? So Eric coming to us from Brooklyn. He's a professional saxophonist, and he's known Sonny his whole life. And he's actually has a gig coming up tomorrow. We'll plug that a little bit later. But Eric's been playing saxophone in and around the New York area for decades, and Sonny is a big influence on him. I'm very honored and lucky to have as my first guest somebody who knows Sonny personally. So, Eric, tell us a little bit about how Sonny came into your life, and I know there's a story about how your father knew him and played with him a long time ago.
Okay. I'll try to remember. I remember so many different times that I remember meeting him as a friend of my father's because my father was an only child. So my mother had three brothers and six sisters. So she came from a big family. So my first recollection of really knowing who he was when he would come visit us in a very bad neighborhood. I grew up in a neighborhood of some very unique individuals. A lot of them are now actually world famous. Mike Tyson, World Be Free,
Mm-hmm.
Fly Williams used to play for the St. Louis Spirits, Virginia Squires with Dr. J, and
I saw
a
them in
lot of
ABA.
athletes.
I
A
saw
guy
the
named
ABA
Vinny.
play. I'm from St. Louis.
Okay. So did you ever meet? You remember hearing about Fly Williams?
I was a little kid when the ABA was playing. I went to a
Right. He
few of their
played.
games.
He played for Austin P, but he was like a legend. But these guys were in my neighborhood. Vinny Johnson, who beat the Lakers with Isaiah Thomas. I went to high school. I went to the same high school as him, but I didn't go the years he was there. But I went to play college basketball later on. That's when I was a teenager, 17. But I'm just trying to tell you the kind of neighborhood that I grew up. Otis Wilson, who played with the refrigerator for the Chicago Bears, grew up in my neighborhood. So I used to see a lot of athletes. My dad played jazz music a lot, and growing up, he didn't force us to play jazz or make us listen to it because I had two brothers and two sisters. He played saxophone, so I'm just trying to reflect as a child. He gave me a sheet of music. The first sheet of music he gave me was a song by John Coltrane, ironically, a tune called Bessie's Blues. The first sheet of music, because I started playing. I played drums first. I want to kind of chronologically tell this. I played drums and played in a little band from the guys in my building because we grew up in a project. Then I played trumpet for a brief period of time because my brother played trumpet. So I remember my dad took me to see Miles Davis, which is part of the story I can get into later. But I met Miles Davis. He
Wow.
talked to me like this
Yeah.
with his voice.
He talked
And I
funny.
never forgot meeting this guy who talked like that and turned his back on the audience playing the trumpet. But when I finally, my dad brought home an alto sax, so I started playing alto. Now Sonny came into our life like my dad he would come by and then I would know he didn't talk about music or nothing, but I knew there was something different about this guy because my dad was so happy when he was around. You know,
Was your dad a pro player, or was your dad a
yeah,
professional?
yeah, he was a professional player. You know, I feel really bad that there was a video online and it's not there anymore. I don't want to say about who put it up, but Sonny was interviewed, and you hear Sonny out of his own mouth say this stuff that my father was his best friend, and my father was a good player, but he just didn't get his thing together because of his family commitment. I think one of the things that Sonny loved about my dad, even though Sonny does not have any children, he loved how my father tried to maintain his family thing because from what I was told through other musicians, my dad could have went on the road with a lot of those bands, like maybe the Basie band, or he could have had opportunities. But during those times, when you went on the road, it wasn't flying around in an airplane. You'd like get in a van and drive from state to state. So he would have been gone for long periods of time. And as I said, I grew up in a very unique area, but it was very rough. So I found out through later in life that my dad didn't want to leave us in the projects. But Sonny, the first time I met him and really interacted was 1972. I think I sent you this flyer. I don't know if you really looked at it in your Instagram, but my dad drove Sonny Rollins' group to play a concert in Storrs, Connecticut. And the band was Jim Hall, Albert Daly, and Larry Ridley. And my dad drove
I did see that.
Right. Now that information I had told somebody that's writing a book on Sonny. And that I posted, that flyer, was in Sonny Rollins' archive. He had saved a lot of his stuff. He gave it to the Schomburg.
Yeah,
and this gentleman
he donated it to Schomburg as the New York Public Library, right?
Yeah, some kind of right.
Jazz
African American stuff or some archive.
Yeah.
So I told the guy the story that my dad drove me, and we got to a diner, and I was about, I was 61. I was about 10 or 11. So my dad gets out the car, leaves me in the car. It's nighttime. And I remember this guy walk over to my father and say something. All I remember after that is I get out the car and they bring me in the diner. So I'm sitting there with these guys. And Sonny was the main guy that told him, nah, don't leave him in the car. Bring him in. So that was my first actual jazz concert. We sat there, I watched it. And I think I learned to pat my foot during that concert. So when that was over, we went on backstage, and I got on the drums. They were like in the dressing room, all these adults. I'm a kid. I got on the drums and started beating the drums, and Sonny Rollins opened the door and, hey, who's out there playing the drums? It was me. So he told my dad to buy me some drums. So that's when I played drums for a brief period of time. But, it was like he made my father very happy when he was around. And then as I became older, my dad would always go see him. He had an annual gig at the Bottom Line in New York. And my dad would take me. I would be the only one to go. We'd go in the dressing room. We'd go backstage. Might hang out with him. And something that I read on one of your posts about how Sonny, we used to hang out with him like he'd never finish and rush out. He'd take his time. He'd be taking all the time in the world before he left. And no matter how many times we left, we were the last people to walk out. Even sometime with the soundman, people would be waiting for him. And he was so gracious. What I learned about him from a young age, this man would sign autographs to answer your questions. He just was very humble and very gracious because he was such a great person. Once I realized as I got older, your dad's friends with Sonny Rollins, and you met Miles Davis. And there's a story of Wilbur Ware knocking on my outdoor one morning, like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Some guy named Wilbur, my mother tells me and my brother to go get in the room with my brothers and sisters.
He's a bass
player.
And I found
out, he played with Monk.
Right.
So I came to realize my dad was friends with all of these guys from that. Miles, Gilly Coggins was a good friend. He used to come to our house all the time. I think we gave him our family piano. And Wilbur Ware, my dad was with Sonny most of that time of his early in the 50s. They became friends. Sonny told me that my dad had met his mother when they had helped her carry home her grocery bags. And they became friends or something like that. It was just something like they lived in Harlem. It was very, neighborhood. Everybody kind of knew people and, But yeah, he was just such a great guy to my father, my mother. And I really got a lot closer to him when my father died. My father got sick, and it was 1989. And this is when I really saw who Sonny Rollins was, because before that I was playing music, and I had a desire to play professionally, but I had just to divert from the sports aspects of my life, I went away to play college basketball after high school because I wanted out of the projects. I didn't see going to college, living in the projects with all the gangs. Man, there was a lot of gangs, really brutal stuff I saw happen to people. Music kind of saved me because I was a musician and I played sports, and I knew all these guys. I'm talking about World Be Free and Otis Wilson. And if you knew these guys in the neighborhood, the gang guys didn't bother them. But I went to play basketball for about a year and a half. I hurt my knee. I came back to New York, and I decided I'm going to play music. So I played alto sax. My father played tenor. I didn't play tenor. My dad had me learning all this Charlie Parker and stuff, always talking about Bird, telling me stories about Bird, and Sonny told me about Bird and Clifford Brown and Max. And when my dad got sick, my mother called. She said, Sonny's going to come to the hospital. I said, really? I said, how did you find him? Because we didn't see him that much at one point. But lo and behold, we went to the hospital and Sonny Rollins is standing over the bed. And that's when I realized, yeah, this guy really, we didn't know where he was at on tour. He was always all over the world, India. Then I started finding stuff out like, your dad used to practice with Sonny on the bridge. I said, I didn't know that.
That's an amazing part of Sonny's life. And that's one of the most famous stories in jazz. And not everybody watching understands that Sonny basically quit music for about 3 years, 1959, something like that. Went out to the bridge. What's it called? The name of that bridge?
The Williamsburg Bridge.
The Williamsburg Bridge. He played out there by himself. I thought by himself. Maybe not.
There was a guy. There was a guy named Paul Jeffrey that used to go up there. But my dad used to go up there. Sonny told me this. My mother told me this. I lost my mother in 2015, but my mother was so beautiful, man. I used to ask her stories. I mean, just to divert, this is a quick little vignette. I was talking about something one day, and I said, Elvin. She said, Elvin Jones? I said, yeah, Elvin Jones. She said, oh, I remember meeting him. I said, really? She said, where? I said, I was out with your dad in a club, and he hit on me. I said, Elvin Jones hit on you? She says, Eric, your dad went to the bathroom, and then I saw the guy looking at me, and as soon as your dad went to the bathroom, he came over and started talking to me. So, but then your dad came back, and they knew each other, and they started laughing and joking and said, wow. And one other little thing, I'm named after a very famous saxophonist, and it was by irony, but I'm named after Eric Dolphy.
Eric Dolphy, yeah, everybody knows him.
My mother loved Eric Dolphy.
I didn't know that.
And I played alto, which was an irony of my life. That I used to ask her questions. Why am I named Eric? Because my brother was named Charles. But anyway, she named me, and like I said, when Sonny came to the hospital, man, it just showed me this guy. When your father really must be tight, because my father was an only child, and nobody else really came to see him. Even my aunts and uncles, which I found it weird, but.
Sonny has a big heart. He's known for being a very
oh man,
giving.
He showed. There's things that he did. I would probably tell you in person. I wouldn't even want to tell you in the video because it's stuff that he did for my family. And but I'll just say he was gracious, man, and very humble. And when my father died, Sonny, before my father got sick, he said, your father's a strong man. I was roommates with your dad. We used to live together, and your father's going to be all right. He's going to recover. But my dad didn't recover, and he passed away. And at that point, I was really kind of like confused. But Sonny called me up one day, just out of the clear blue sky, and said, how you doing? How you been? You still playing saxophone? You can't give up. Your dad would have wanted you to play. So don't give up. If you need anything, call me. I'm here for you. Take my number, call me. And I thought that was very touching, man. And I kind of dedicated my life from that point to become a musician that I have become now, recording. I've been all over the world. I played in 18 countries, from China to Slovakia to Prague to Russia, Italy, Australia, Lebanon, Greece. I could go on and on. Singapore, Thailand last year, but it was all inspired by him and reading about him, and as I got older, knowing who he was and what he had done.
So but you didn't really like play with Sonny and you know, lessons and all that. You maybe you learned sax from your dad, not Sonny, but maybe records or what? Tell us a little bit about
I learned jazz from my dad, and that's the other thing about this video. I wish your viewers could see it for him saying it. He says that his father didn't get the chance because of his raising his family, and he taught Eric how to play jazz the way he learned it, not in a school, is what he says out of his own mouth. This video is it's on somebody, the person has it, but it was on YouTube. I should have. I'm kind of kicking myself in the because I should have recorded this. It was very important to hear Sonny talk about my dad. He's talked about my dad to me, but this was somebody that's asked him a question, and the way he explained it, he says Eric's father didn't get a chance, so Eric is trying to carry it on for him, which is what I'm doing. But Sonny told me stuff over the phone about music, and then he was playing for me on his horn. That was amazing. He explained something to me. He says, it goes like this, because I called him and he was practicing. And when he played this over the phone, it blew my mind to hear his sound. And then he's played it slow. He says, did you get that? I said, okay. So he told me some things to do. And then I'll say this once, we were talking. So he says to me, do you play giant steps? I said, yeah. I play it. I played it on gigs. He says, do you play it in 12 keys? And I said, no, but I will now. Because see, Sonny had a way of talking to you. He's not going to tell you. He would have been a good teacher, but you would have to been a very alert student. Because stuff that he would say it. I was realizing if he's saying it, it must have some value. He's just not telling you how much value. Like some guy might say, man, you got to do this. You got to. He didn't teach you like that, because right after he says that, he says, you play Countdown? I said, yeah, I play it. And then he changed the subject from a non-musical point, something totally non-musical. And right then I said, okay. I actually recorded Countdown. It's on my Borough of King CD. For anybody, I have a YouTube channel.
Remind us what song that was.
Huh?
Remind us what that song Countdown is.
Remind us? What'd you say?
Yeah. I know Giant Steps. Tell me what Countdown is. Is that a
Countdown is
Coltrane song?
Is a Coltrane song that he used based off of the song Tune Up.
Which is
it's based off of the melody blah, Tune Up ba ba boo doo da blah da boo doo da. And Countdown is ba 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 boo dee be da ba 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 boo be ya boo boo da boo be da. So when he said that, I said, wait a minute. He's telling you what to work on. But not just that, play it in 12 keys. And you don't know, I started doing that, man, and it changed my life. But Countdown, I recorded just to let him know, yeah, I do play it now. I not only play it, I recorded it. But yeah, I learned a lot from him just from conversations, man. And
but he asked you about 2 Coltrane songs. He didn't ask you about a Sonny song. So what?
No, right. What's his
relationship with Coltrane? Was he a competitor? Did he feel like a rivalry with Coltrane?
No. I'm so glad you're asking me that. Coltrane was one of his best friends. The stuff that you read about is almost like the hip hop Biggie Smalls against Tupac. Coltrane was his friend. He told me that was his man. They talked about music. They shared a lot. The rivalry was that they were around at the same time, and Coltrane's things got really big. He was not bitter. He was human being. Now, he didn't say he didn't have anything against Coltrane. He didn't like the fact that they were making it him against Train. Like I used to hear this story about Tenor Madness, that Coltrane came in there and messed Sonny up. And I know I didn't interpret it that way. They were 2 friends. They had complete different styles. Sonny is more rhythmic and melodic. Coltrane was a technician, but he had found avenues to play over specific chord changes that really he found some undiscovered music in those changes. And then he wrote a lot of melodies because you see, he put the Coltrane changes on a lot of different songs. But they were different musicians with different ideals. Sonny was very spiritual. He went to live in India. And, something I could say that really, this COVID, this fact that we're not able to play and stuff, Sonny put himself on a almost self-imposed COVID sabbatical. If you think about it, he took himself off of the jazz scene. But he did it for 2.5 years.
Yeah, he did it. He did two sabbaticals, but the first one on the bridge is the most famous one.
Sure. He told me why he did that. He wanted to be better as a musician. He didn't want to be in the clubs. He didn't want to he wanted to find something in his playing that he hadn't discovered yet. And he realized the only way to do it is to isolate himself. And he shared that with me. And my dad used to practice with him. He thought my dad was a very good musician, but my dad didn't want to, like, for instance, Dewey Redman and Joshua Redman. Mm-hmm. I'm on a record with Dewey Redman. I met Dewey in the studio. I recorded on a CD by a gentleman named Rodney Kendrick. The album was called Last Chance for Common Sense. And I spoke to Dewey about how his life was. And he knows that his son was bitter that he wasn't in his life. He feels regret. He felt regret because, that was not part of what he wanted to do. But these guys went on the road and they would go for months, man, through 2 or 3 months. Like when they drew Charlie Parker, they drove to California and stuff, or took a train out there. They would be gone for long, extended periods of time. And my dad that's not what he wanted to do because he was an only child and he wasn't raised by his dad. He was, but he didn't like his dad. He didn't use his last name. My last name should really be Eric Jolly. Not Eric Wyatt. Wyatt was his mother's name. So,
but your dad was Charlie Wyatt. Your dad was known as Charlie Wyatt, right? Yeah,
Charles Jolly Wyatt.
Charles Jolly.
He used Jolly because that was his real last name. But Sonny. After that, then I started making some progress, playing in New York, with a lot of people. And I remember I had an organ trio I was playing at this club, and a Japanese guy named Shinobu Ito used to come play with me with this organ player named Dan Kostelnik. And I started playing my father's tenor. Sonny told me, what are you going to do with your father's horns? And my mother had given them to me already. And I was not a tenor player. I was an alto player. So when I started playing tenor, Sonny said he hears that I seem to like Coltrane. That's maybe why, but this was long after when he told me about those tunes. But there was something about his playing that I was very familiar with. So I did kind of have a line. Somebody used to say, you're playing on a line of Train and Sonny. You were kind of like dipping in and out of it. Because I had heard that music all my life. Phil Shapp used to come on 6 o'clock in the morning. He had a program called Bird Flight. And Bird Flight played nothing but Charlie Parker, Dizzy, Sean Nuff, all those. So I used to hear this music when I didn't want to hear it. I used to have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning because I was bussed out of my neighborhood to go to a better school. And, so I had always been hearing Sonny Rollins and Bird and that kind of stuff. But I started playing, and the guy Shinobu overheard me talking to the guy Dan about Sonny. And I heard through the grapevine, he was asking Dan, Eric, why does he talk about Sonny like he knows him? He says, I think Sonny's like his uncle or something. So the guy asked me, would I like to make a record for a Japanese label? I said, sure. And they wanted to connect it to Sonny and asked me, could I get Sonny involved in it? At first, he agreed to be the producer of the record. But then he said, I told him, he asked me, what would that entail? He said, I'll help you out any way I can. All this history happened. This is all in 90. This happens in 97 for me. He says, I'll come to the studio and talk about your dad, but something happened in his schedule. So he just came to take like a photo shoot. And you saw the cover of that record, Godson, I think I sent you, right?
Yeah, saw that.
Right. That's from that recording. And he came and talked about my dad. And one thing I had asked him, I had questioned. I said, you know, even though my dad didn't make any records, if you had to say who he sounded like as a saxophonist, who would you say? Because I heard one name through certain people that knew my dad and saw my dad play through those early years. That guy, there's like one other guy that was around. His name was George Braith, and they were good friends. And I used to ask George, and he said, your dad used to sound like Dexter Gordon, which really blew me away. And but when he said it, I said, wow, Sonny, Dexter, Train. So maybe there was something there. Because then when I asked Sonny, I said, Sonny, I always heard he sounded like Dexter. And Sonny kind of raised his head and said, yeah. And see, you know, guys like that, they're not going to make up something to appease me, because something happened at the recording session. Not the recording, but when we went and met with the Japanese people, they took the photos. They wanted to call it or use Sonny's name and my name. His name is Theodore Walter Rollins. So they wanted to call me Eric Walter Wyatt or Theodore Eric Wyatt. And they were saying all these names like gimmicks for the record, because, you know, and Sonny said, nah. He says, well, can we say Eric is your nephew? He said, no, because I got one nephew, Clifton, and I don't want to make people wondering, who's Eric Wyatt? How am I Sonny Rollins' nephew? Sonny said, Eric is more like my godson. He's the son of my best friend. So if you can call the record Godson, which is how that came to be. And they wanted to get, yeah.
Did Sonny call it did they call him a producer? Or did they connect him to it?
No, because that was going to happen, but it happened. We did when we talked about doing that, we would have had to done the record like within 2 months. This happened like maybe a year later. I called him again. I said, Sonny, the people want to do the record. They like to talk with you if you're available. I know you're busy. So he carved out some time, which another showing of his graciousness. He said, you guys can meet me at SIR Studios in Manhattan. SIR was the studio he would rehearse with his band. So he had a limited time to rehearse there. He says, I'll give you guys 1 hour. He gave us 2. And it just was amazing that we connect. There's a picture of him. I think I sent you the picture where he's pointing at me.
Yeah, I think I saw the picture from 2 of you. Yeah.
Right. That's from that day. He said, he's a funny guy. He's very humorous. As humorous as you know in his playing, he's even more in his personality. He says, you want one like this? And I started laughing like, oh yeah, I don't think too many saxophone players are gonna have a photo like this. So he was just a gracious. Yeah.
He has a kind of a happy positivity in his music, and you compare that to Coltrane, who's much darker and serious. And I mean, that's just how I think of Sonny. That's his personality and his playing and in the way he deals with people. If you'd agree with that.
No question.
Very dark and serious, and you never see him smile hardly. And that comes across in both their music.
Yeah, Coltrane had a different concept musically thinking. Sonny was melodic. He wants you to dance, calypso. He's very humorous, you know, in his improvisation. You know, I learned so much from him, and knowing him, I feel so blessed, you know, because a lot of friends don't have a connection to somebody that great, you know. But he told me him and my dad were great friends, man. They've been through a lot of things together. And I know something made them so tight, because he stayed in our lives to the point, he would call my mother. He told my mother this is a true story. He calls my mother one day and he says, yeah, I was talking with Charles the other day. And my mother says, and this is my brother's name, and my brother lives with my mother. He says, yeah. She said, Charles didn't tell me you called here. He says, no, I'm not talking about your son. I'm talking about your husband, Charles. My father had been dead for like maybe 2 or 3 years. Mm. He says, yeah, he came to me and told me to make sure I look out for you. And I'll discuss that with you later on. But he's been so gracious, man, and beautiful.
So have you seen Sonny in the last few years?
The last time I saw him.
Because he's not playing anymore.
No, we did a tribute for him at the Apollo, and I was invited and asked to be one of the saxophone players. I should send you the video. There's a video of us. We did a tribute at the Apollo where he used to hang out. Danny Glover was the MC, and they invited. They had a bunch of people there. I mean, Jack DeJohnette, man, James Carter. They had a line of saxophone players come out and play St. Thomas, and it's myself, Kenny Garrett, Renee McLean, this young lady, Melissa Aldana, who just has come up on the scene, a winner of the Monk competition. A guy named Gene Gee.
With that one?
Huh?
Was Joe Lovano with that one?
No, he wasn't at that one. This was a different one.
You guys have done a couple of different tributes.
I did a couple of things, and that was the last time I saw him, and I was so glad I got a picture. I think I might have sent you a picture with him with a red hat on.
You sent me a bunch of stuff. I got to go through.
Right,
that.
I just wanted
I might have time to edit those back in here, but we'll see if I have time to do all that.
Sure.
Video up like tomorrow. Tonight
okay.
Tomorrow.
Well, that picture was taken. Huh?
I was just going to change the subject a little bit. Is there like a most memorable Sonny story or remembrance that has made the most impact on you? You already told us about your father in the hospital, but is there any other touching?
No question. There's two of them.
Yeah.
Okay. The first one is that I was playing good alto around maybe, I don't know what year, maybe 1990. Let me see. It was in the 80s, maybe 85, 86. My dad came by my house. I had moved out. I was living alone. I was practicing my horn. He came by, caught me practicing. I started playing all this bird stuff and stuff I had played. He told me to learn. So he said, man, you sounding good. What you doing this week? So I said, I want to take you over there with Sonny. I'm going to tell Sonny to let you sit in with him. And I was like, okay, if you say so. So he came and got me. I took my horn. We went to the gig. It was at the Bottom Line. It was that annual Bottom Line gig. And we went there early. And then when Sonny was on the break, my dad took me and said, look, Sonny, he's ready. And Sonny with his amazing, oh yeah, you think he's ready? And I'm just standing there. I'm like, I don't know. He's like, you think, Charlie, you think he's ready? He says, yeah, Sonny, let him play one with you cats, man. So Sonny said, not tonight. Let's try somewhere else. Not tonight and not here, you know.
How old were you then?
I might have been 24, 25.
Okay. You're a young man. All right. So did that ever happen?
I wasn't ready. Between you and I was not ready. But my dad believed in me, and the fact Sonny was so gracious, it inspired me to really, really deal with this music on a high level, because that bar is very high, you know, Greg. That bar of playing with him. But I thank God he didn't do it. And the other story, there's actually two more, because I think I mentioned the one about me playing with Joe Lovano, Robbie Coltrane. So I would just maybe say that one, but there's one thing that he did that really touched me very, very seriously. I'll tell you, try to make them quick. They did a tribute for Sonny at SUNY Purchase, and I saw it online. I looked on Facebook. I saw it coming next, whatever, Joe Lovano, Robbie Coltrane, Jimmy Heath, playing the music of Sonny Rollins, Robbie and Jimmy and James Carter, and this guy named James Brandon Lewis, upcoming player. So I called his nephew, Clifton Anderson. I said, hey, man, did Sonny know about this tribute? He said, yeah, he knows about it. I said, and yeah, what is he saying? He's pissed off. I said, what's happening? He said, why isn't Eric's name there? John Faddis called me and asked me for a bunch of names, and I gave them Eric's name. Eric's not on the flyer. He said, I want you to call John Faddis and tell him I want my godson to play on the concert. Nice. These guys don't represent me. Eric represents me. So
that's very cool.
I was in shock. This was 2017, maybe? Yeah, because my mother had passed. It was 2017.
So this concert, I think we do have footage on YouTube.
Right.
I can
Thank
link
God
some of
for
those
this.
things.
Hmm?
I'll link some of those up in the
Right.
video.
I just want to tell LB Clark that I love her and her boyfriend Jim. They came to the concert. Friends of mine, really, that believe in me. They were great people. And she filmed that one song. I have recordings of it in my phone. I had my phone on the stage. I said, there's no way I'm not recording some of this. Victor Lewis is on drums, David Hazeltine on piano, and Todd Kuhlman on bass. But I was blown away by that because just as Clifton told me, John Faddis called me. He apologized. He invited me. There's some other things that I won't say right now that happened, but I got to play, was documented, and it was great. And Sonny would not have done that had he not believed in me. You know, I don't
Amazing.
see how that would have happened at all.
Thanks to Sonny for putting your name in
Oh,
there.
man. But the other one is, I'll make it short. Sonny is not a birthday, holiday, Christmas guy, Happy New Year guy. You got to say that stuff to him like 2 or 3 days or a week or even 2 weeks early. Because if you call him on those days, like, you know, you get a call, he doesn't answer the phone. So Thanksgiving 2016, and it's all imprinted in my mind because it was rare. It was very rare. I lost my mother in 2015, April. No, it was 2015 April. Yeah, it was 20. I'm sorry, no, it wasn't 2016. It was 2015. She passed April 30th. Around 9 o'clock, because it was the first time I had my no Thanksgiving with my mother. My mother was an amazing cook. I didn't want to go eat anybody else's food. I didn't want to be reminded of that. And there's one other thing that I will connect to show you how Sonny is such an amazing guy. There was a guy who I took to see Sonny in like the 80s, right after my father died. His name was Glenn Chango Everett. He was like the star musician in my neighborhood. He was the one guy my father would let come into our house, because I had 2 sisters in the projects. He wouldn't let guys in anybody that came in our house that we were friends with were either musicians, not nobody else. You had to be some kind of musician. My dad had to know you. But Sonny Rollins, it was 9 o'clock. I said, okay, I got food from people in my neighborhood. I said, I'm going to start heating up this food. You know, most people have Thanksgiving, they're watching TV, football. They eat like 3, 4 in the afternoon. Not me. I was sad, reminiscing on my mother, the first Thanksgiving without her. I'm literally having the pot on the stove and the food is ready to be eaten. And the phone rings. I said, who the hell is calling me, man? And I look and it said Sonny Rollins. And that conversation went on for 3 hours, man.
No way.
3 hours. I'm not going to lie to you. He told me, you know, I know you're missing your mother. I just want to see how you're doing. It's your first time. He's like, he knew what was going on in my mind. And It was amazing because by 10 o'clock, like 9, I turned the thing off. By 9:45, I turned it back on similar. I said, okay, he'll probably be ready to stop talking. 10 o'clock, I had to turn it off again. Talking more and more and more. 11:45, let me turn it back on. Still talking. All kind of stuff, this, that. Turn it off. 12:45, I turn it on. He starts coming simmering down. It's okay, Eric. Yeah. But out of nowhere, he says to me, how's your friend Chango? The guy I mentioned prior that I told you should come to my house. I brought him to see Sonny Rollins one time, man. One time. And I said, Sonny, Chango died. But the irony is he died on Thanksgiving the year before.
Wow, that's weird.
Now what I don't even know what we talked about that would even make him think of this guy. He met him one time. He's not on like a lot of records. He played with R&B bands. He played with James Brown. He did play with James Moody briefly, and he played with Roy Ayers. He was a good drummer, but he wasn't an established like drummer like you could look in the downbeats and all that. He was an amazing guy, but he was one of my best friends. And that's just something very unique about Sonny that I don't get that. Because he met this guy one time. It was just like, yeah, we came to see you. This is my friend Chango. And, you know, I don't want to keep rambling, but yeah, that was something that really touched me, man.
He's got a good memory and he's thoughtful.
Amazing memory.
He cares about people.
Amazing memory, man. that one, from all the things that I remember, that it's always going to come to my mind. Why did you mention Chango? Chango died on Thanksgiving. My mother was dead. And here we are talking on Thanksgiving. And you never talk to people on holidays. And then you ask me about my best friend that I've known since I was like 12. I used to play in R&B bands with Chango, and it just was just so crazy. But yeah, it's a lot of things like that, man.
Some kind of spiritual connection that we don't know about.
Yeah, that one got me. It still does to this day. And I felt blessed because he doesn't call you on a holiday. Forget it. Even his own nephew, he's not a holiday guy, man.
So you have a new record that mentions Sonny or is dedicated to Sonny? Tell us a little about that.
Yeah, my latest record on Wayland City Sound, and I did this because I wanted to do it before he wasn't around. I realized I had made a few records. I have a record called Borough of Kings. It's on Positone Records. I recorded the Countdown that I mentioned. I reworked it, though. I didn't record it like Train. I made a different version of it. I turned it into a melodic song as opposed to Coltrane. It's like 2 minutes and it's going by super fast. I have a record called Look to the Sky, which I dedicated. I wrote a song for my mother entitled Look to the Sky for my I said Sister Carol, because my sister Carol, when we lost my mother, we were talking one day, and I think she said, I guess we got to look to the sky now to see our mother. I said, yeah. And I thought about it, and I wrote a tune and called it that. Then there's a tune called Jolly Charlie, which I wrote for my dad, which is a blues. So this latest record I wanted to do, I wasn't even really thinking about the 90, but I realize now I'm glad I did it. I did a tribute to Sonny and recorded songs of his that I had learned and liked, but I was very honored to get musicians that would played with him. Russell Malone is on it. Of course, his nephew Clifton Anderson. Willie Jones, the third, who played with Sonny briefly. Who else I had gotten guys that played with Sonny, and some of my regular guys, Eric Wyatt on bass. 3 drummers, because I had been playing with these guys and always played Sonny's music, and everyone interpreted his music a certain way, but it worked out. I just got Charles Gould, Chris Beck. Charles Gould is playing me tomorrow night at Smalls. But I wanted to do a tribute to Sonny to let him know, all the Coltrane stuff. I was also well-versed in my Sonny vocabulary. So I wanted to let him know. And if there's several reviews, there's some on my website, they really embraced it as, I'm not a copy of Sonny. I've always been reading in my reviews, Eric Wyatt is not a Sonny Rollins clone. I play Sonny Rollins music, but I interpret it with my own flair. And that's what Sonny would like anybody to do. He's not into transcribing and regurgitating his stuff, because a lot of the stuff he's done, he feels he can do better. And I'm going to share something with you. There's a documentary that came out. It's not out for the public consumption, but it's called I'll Play Better Tomorrow. And a European guy shot it. So at some point it should be available, but I may be able to have a way to let you see it. I'm not sure. I don't want to say that, but
maybe
it's a great documentary. You'd love it.
Maybe we can get the documentary guy to talk to me on my tribute here I'm doing.
Well, he lives in Europe, and I don't know how to contact him. I'd have to find out how, but it's a great documentary. And it was never released here. It was footage of him on his 80th birthday at the Beacon Theater.
Oh, so this was done a while ago.
It wasn't that long ago, about 10 years ago. Yeah.
Okay, but it's not.
I'm in it, actually, for a brief moment. Yeah.
We'll try to do that. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you did some Sonny tunes on this latest record.
Yeah, I did Don't Stop the Carnival. I recorded And If Ever I Would Leave You. A tune called Azalea. Grand Street. I used to go to his apartment too. My dad used to take me. He used to have two German shepherds. He named them Major and Minor. And I met those dogs. They were very cool. They were big German shepherds, man. He used to live on near Willoughby Walk in Brooklyn, near Grand Street. But yeah, and I recorded the tune The Bridge in honor of my dad playing up there. But I used a gentleman who you may want to talk to. He's a good friend of mine. He's a great tenor player named J.D. Allen. And JD is definitely Sonny Rollins fan and someone who interprets his music. He plays a lot of his music trio. And Sonny likes
Yeah,
JD. He's a
that's
great
kind of
young man.
a theme of some of my videos is the fact that Sonny played the trio format, which is
Right.
not too challenging for maybe some sax players to not have a chordal instrument kind of backing you up. I actually heard Sonny talking about it. Christian McBride was asking him about the trio, and Sonny was just saying it's the freedom of not being tied to any chord. I want the jumping off spot, but I'm going wherever I want to go. And
Right.
most sax players, I don't think, want that much freedom because it's a challenge. I don't know if you've ever
Well,
played in that format.
it's oh yeah, I love playing in that format. It's an endurance test as well because you got to play like the melody and the improvise. Like you got to play some of the chordal to let people know where you're at in the song.
Right.
You know, you got to follow some kind of structure. But JD has been doing pretty amazing music in that format, and I like JD. He's a good cat, and I put him on the record because that Sonny. I kind of talked, it was like organic, man. Me and him had been talking. I've been known him for years. I knew him when he first got to New York. It's about 18, 19. He was playing with Betty Carter in a program in her group and with Eric Reeves, who plays with Branford. I knew these cats coming up because I'm a New York guy. Everybody that came to New York that was of some stature or substance in their playing, I always reached out to them and became kind of friendly with JD called me on a Saturday and I was recording on Monday. And we started talking. He says, "Oh man, I want to come by the studio. You doing Sonny?" Oh man, he was like excited. I said, "Yeah, you want to come?" I said, "Okay, bring your horn, man." He says, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah." He said, "You want me to play?" I said, "Maybe I'll think of something." And long story short, because of my dad's relationship with another tenor player, Sonny Rollins, playing on the bridge, I got JD to play on the bridge on with me. It's on my recording.
Nice.
All the fans there listening can go to my Instagram, Eric Wyatt, and follow me. And
I'm gonna give you your plug here.
yeah, and my channel. I have a lot of great music. I got videos with Roy Hargrove. I got videos with Jeff Tain Watts. A lot of great guys. I played on a record with Wynton Marsalis that's out. It's not my record. It's a record called The Music of Frank Foster, and I play on a tune called Manhattan Fever. All this stuff is online, but
I got your website is up here on the screen.
Okay.
And let's tell everybody about the gig tomorrow. I think we're going to wrap it up here pretty soon. We're
sure
coming up on an hour. It's getting late out there. So
yeah, I'm a night owl anyway, though. But yeah.
So before we say happy birthday to Sonny, which I'll have you do right into the camera, but let's talk about your gig tomorrow, because Smalls, which is a jazz club, where's it located again? Is that in Brooklyn?
On 7th Avenue and 10th Street.
Okay.
But you can go to www.smallslive.com and everybody can watch the show for free. You can make a donation tomorrow between, I believe, 5 and 6:30 we play. It's free online. I'm just honored that Spike Wilner, a good friend of mine who I've known for years. Spike has been running the club, and he's a visionary because he created this live stream stuff when nobody was thinking about it. And here we are with this COVID-19 and no clubs and no gigs. He's been able now to record and document, which he always was, but perform the music. You can perform the music, there's no audience, and it's live streamed. And I'll tell you, I got so much work from my videos from his archive. I have an archive on his on that site. I've used those videos. Those videos have got me gigs in Slovakia, in Australia,
wow,
in Malaysia. Either some promoters see me on there, and then they send me messages like, "I'd like to contact you about playing at my festival," or would you like to come play at my club? And it's just amazing. That archive has been very, very instrumental in my career. And
well, yeah, it's great.
Not much I can say. We're looking forward to play some music from all my records, and definitely something from my latest, which is called The Golden Rule for Sonny. And the golden rule, as Sonny, I don't know if you know, is treat people the way you would like for them to treat you.
Sonny's the man who knows how to been living that his whole life. Good advice for all of us.
Yeah.
I'm gonna remind my viewers to check out that gig at Smalls. I'm gonna show them the links to some of the stuff we talked about, and I just want to get everybody I talked to just give a great happy birthday right to Sonny, and I'm gonna edit all those together. So go for it.
I just want to wish you a happy 90th, Sonny. You've been great to me. I know life is in a strange place, but it's a better world with you in it. And I'm glad I'm glad you came into my life and helped me become the gentleman that I'm trying to still be. And thank you for all the great music that you've shared and the kindness you've treated my family with. Happy birthday, Sonny. Love you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, man.
Eric Wyatt in New York and Brooklyn, saxophone player, guys. Check him out. And great way to start off our Sonny Rollins tribute to his 90th birthday. Eric, thank you so much. And I
thank you for having me, man. I remember when I remember seeing your stuff. I said, wait a minute, this guy's gonna do something for my godfather. I don't know who's this guy.
I'm just a guy with a YouTube channel. That's all. I'm just a guy who's collects records and listens to records. That's all I am.
I want to give a shout out though to one other guy who reminds me of you. You don't know him. His name is Jeff Caltabiano.
Jeff Caltabiano sounds Italian.
He's an Italian guy. He's the guy who created the Sonny Rollins Bridge project.
Okay. Yeah, Jeff. I know the name Jeff. I want to contact him.
Yeah, I'm going to put you in touch with him. Definitely after you should do it. Man, what an amazing guy. I mean, he just was like a force, man. We did all we could. He even took me up on the bridge. There's a video, the bridge, Sonny Rollins tribute on YouTube. Look it up.
Seen it.
Right. Jeff was just his whole thing was a commitment to get them to rename this bridge. We found out the governor we went all the way through all this stuff. We played on the bridge. We met the Brooklyn borough president. We had a meeting with him. We got signatures, but then through all this energy, we found out that we have to get the governor. The governor is the person that names bridges, and then you got to buy the the signs on the bridge, the big green signs when you exit or whatever.
So we got to pay.
You got to get the money to pay for the name. So we ran into a few roadblocks, but what an amazing guy. I think you would enjoy talking to him. And I want to thank him because, he got Sonny excited, man. Sonny wasn't able to play. I will say this, man. Sonny told me, I knew before any of you people heard about Sonny was sick. He told me this maybe, oh man. He said it to me maybe 10 years, not 10 years ago. He was right. No, it wasn't 10. I'd say within the last 6 or 7 years when he couldn't play anymore. And we were talking and I couldn't believe what he was saying. He said, Eric, I can't play anymore. This thing is messing with me. He has pulmonary fibrosis. He was near the place where the Twin Towers came down. He had an apartment over there. But anyway, he got sick and then he had been trying to play. But he told me I couldn't play anymore. And I want you to go out there and I want you to play for me. And I took that as like, Sonny, I can never be you. It's an honor that you feel that way, but I'm going to try my best. He said, well, just do what you got to do, but you're playing for me now. And I felt very touched by that. When I hung up the phone, I broke down in tears because I couldn't believe that he wasn't going to play anymore. And I knew it, and I couldn't tell people that. And slowly but surely, he let it out into the press years after he had told me. He was trying to get well. He tried all kind of stuff. I think he even tried an EWI. He played alto for a brief period, but it just wasn't coming back,
Electronic.
So, it's been an interesting relationship, but I had learned a lot of things that I kept to myself and still do, but he's definitely the greatest inspiration of my life. And he treated my father great and my mother. So I'm going to love him to the day I'm not here.
That's wonderful. Beautiful stories. Thank you for relating the stories, Eric.
You're welcome. I want the world to know because he doesn't even have any really family other than his nephew, who is a great guy, Clifton Anderson. Look out for Clifton. I'm on his latest record. is coming out this year on Rope-A-Dope Records. It's called Been Down This Road again. And I'm recording another record in a few months with some very big name people. So I'll get back to you on that. But yeah, it doesn't have a lot of family. So anything to honor him, I feel it needs to be done, man. So thank you. I'm going to tell him about you.
Excellent. Appreciate it. Hope a lot of people get to see this, and I want a lot of new people to understand about Sonny. That's kind of the point of this project.
Sure.
Eric, so thank you. Let's sign off. And
you're welcome, man.
Have a great night. Look forward to your gig tomorrow. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, please tune in, everybody out there in jazz world.
I'm going to promote that for you. We'll get a few extra watchers and listeners. And
right.
Thank you, Eric. Let's sign off.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
All right. All right.